My partner of 5 years, Ethan, recently expressed doubts about our upcoming marriage and then humiliated me in front of his friends with a cruel joke about my appearance. This morning, his mother called me in tears, leaving me unsure of what to expect next. Ethan and I have been together for just over 5 years, engaged for the last 9 months. We met at a mutual friend's game night, bonding over our mutual dislike for craft beer and a shared nostalgia for early 2000s TV shows. Our relationship grew naturally. We dated for a year, moved in together after 2, adopted our dog Milo in year 3, and got engaged last fall. The proposal was simple but heartfelt. A quiet evening walk in a nearby park, where Ethan nervously pulled a ring from his jacket pocket. I said yes without hesitation. We planned the wedding for this November, and I've been the one handling most of the details: venue tours, guest lists, and colour schemes, while Ethan offered vague approvals. About 4 months ago, I noticed Ethan becoming distant when we discussed wedding plans. He'd make offhand remarks like, "That's a big expense for one day," or "Do we really need such a huge guest list?" I chalked it up to practical concerns or typical pre-wedding nerves. His responses to my texts about vendors or invitations grew slower, often just a curt "looks good" or "your call." When I asked if something was wrong, he blamed work stress. His landscaping business was juggling major contracts, so I believed him. Lately, Ethan's been spending more time with his co-worker Jake. They'd grab drinks after work or watch football at Jake's place. It wasn't out of the ordinary, just more frequent. At home, Ethan seemed distracted, glued to his phone and less affectionate. I confided in my best friend Mia, who suggested it was just cold feet and recommended a date night to reconnect. Last Saturday, I booked a table at a cozy Mexican restaurant, wore a dress I hadn't pulled out in months, and stocked the fridge with Ethan's favourite cider. But the evening was a disaster. Ethan barely spoke, distracted and disengaged. When I mentioned finalising our honeymoon plans, he admitted he wasn't sure about all this, not just the honeymoon, but the wedding and marriage itself. I was floored. 5 years together, 9 months engaged, and now this. I pressed for answers, trying to keep my voice steady in the restaurant. He mentioned Jake's stories about marriage pitfalls and a friend's recent divorce. The conversation spiraled, and we left without finishing our meals. The drive home was silent, the air heavy. At our apartment, Ethan avoided further discussion, saying he needed time to think, and slept on the couch. The next morning was tense. We moved around each other like strangers. He said he was meeting Jake and some co-workers for lunch at a local pub to watch a game. Exhausted and hurt, I didn't protest. Later, Mia convinced me to get out of the apartment. We grabbed coffee and I poured out everything. She reassured me it might just be pre-wedding jitters and suggested I give him space. Afterward, we wandered through a department store where I bought random items, a candle, some socks, trying to distract myself. As I drove home, I got a text from Ryan, a co-worker of Ethan's I'd met at a company barbecue. He asked if I was okay, saying things got messy at the pub. I called him, and after some hesitation, he shared what happened. Jake had been teasing Ethan about the wedding, asking if he was ready to settle for one woman forever. Ethan, apparently tipsy, responded with something like, "If she was better looking, I'd be more excited about it." He laughed it off, but Ryan and others called him out. Ethan got defensive, claiming it was just a joke. I sat in my car sobbing, unable to process that the man I loved had publicly mocked my appearance as the reason for his doubts. When I got home, Ethan was passed out on the couch, reeking of alcohol. I took Milo and locked myself in the bedroom. The next morning, Ethan made pancakes, his usual apology move, but looked hungover and guilty. When I confronted him about Ryan's call, he admitted to the comment but insisted it was a drunken mistake to fit in with the guys. He blamed wedding stress and work pressure, but his excuses only deepened my hurt. How could he use my appearance as a punchline? I couldn't stay. I grabbed my bag and went to my brother Lucas's place, needing a safe space. Lucas was livid, ready to confront Ethan, but I asked for time to think. Ethan kept texting apologies, but I only replied once saying I needed space. Monday morning, I called in sick to my receptionist job at a vet clinic, unable to face people. Around 10 a.m., Ethan's mom, Diane, called, sounding distraught. She said Ethan had spoken to her Sunday night, and there was something I needed to know. She asked to meet at a cafe, and now I'm parked outside, minutes away from meeting her, wondering what could possibly make this worse, and whether my 5-year relationship is over. Thank you for the incredible support on my post. I didn't expect so many responses. I've been reading them between tears and stress-eating pretzels from Lucas's pantry. To answer a common question, yes, I met with Diane, and I'll get to that later. The last 2 days have been a whirlwind. I called in sick to work again on Monday. My boss was kind, as I rarely take leave. I spent the morning in Lucas's cramped guest room, scrolling through comments and trying to make sense of everything. Around noon, Mia brought over subs from a nearby deli. I hadn't eaten much, so I forced down a few bites. She pointed out that I couldn't avoid Ethan forever. We shared an apartment, bank accounts, and responsibilities. She was right. I couldn't hide at Lucas's forever, especially with his girlfriend's game night planned that evening. After Mia left, I showered, borrowed one of Lucas's oversized sweaters, and drove home, rehearsing what I'd say to Ethan. Calm, composed, no tears. When I arrived, Ethan's truck was in the parking lot, which was odd since he should have been at work. Inside, he was on the couch in pajamas, surrounded by my wedding planning notebooks, with Milo sprawled beside him. He looked exhausted, but relieved to see me. He'd taken a personal day, saying he was reviewing our plans to understand where he went wrong. I stayed by the door, not ready to get close, and told him notebooks wouldn't fix what he said. What followed was a raw, painful conversation. He apologized again for the pub comment, calling it indefensible, but said he didn't mean it. When I asked why he'd say something so cruel, he admitted he was trying to seem tough in front of Jake and the guys. I reminded him of his doubts at dinner, expressed before he was drunk. He confessed to feeling overwhelmed by work delays, Jake's negative talk about marriage, and our wedding budget. Instead of talking to me, he'd shut down. Then he revealed something deeper. Fear of becoming like his father, who abandoned the family when Ethan was 10, leaving for California with a new partner. Ethan rarely mentioned his dad, but now admitted he worried about inheriting the same tendencies to betray or abandon. I told him he wasn't his father, that choices aren't genetic. He said he wasn't sure he could promise forever, given his parents' failed marriage. When I asked if he'd shared these fears with anyone, he admitted to confiding in Ryan, who'd been through a breakup recently. That explained why Ryan called me. Ethan had already been venting doubts. I asked the hardest question: were his doubts about marriage in general or about me specifically? His pause was deafening. He finally said his fears were mostly about commitment, but he also wondered if we were still compatible long-term. That hurt worse than the pub comment. 5 years, and he was questioning us? He mentioned how we'd changed, me becoming more organized, him giving up his dream of opening a landscaping firm. I argued that growth is normal, but he wondered if we'd grown apart. Exhausted, I said I needed space to process his betrayal, his hidden doubts, and now this uncertainty about us. He suggested therapy, but I insisted on time alone. As I packed more clothes, he pointed out my phone had been buzzing. 3 missed calls from Diane. I'd forgotten our cafe meeting. When I mentioned it, Ethan's face paled. He said he'd spoken to her Sunday night about his doubts, but was vague about details, urging me to hear her out. His evasiveness raised red flags. I called Diane, who was worried I'd missed our meeting. I explained I was with Ethan, and she urged me to meet her soon, her voice tense when I mentioned him. We arranged to meet in an hour. When I pressed Ethan about what Diane knew, he looked guilty, saying it wasn't his place to tell me and that I should talk to her. I packed a week's worth of clothes and left, telling Ethan I wasn't sure love was enough anymore. On my way to Diane, Ethan's sister Qley called, asking what was going on. She'd heard about the pub incident from Jake and said Diane was upset. When I mentioned meeting Diane, Qley seemed startled and asked if it was about Sarah. The name hit me hard. Sarah? Who was she? Qley backtracked, saying I should talk to Diane, refusing to elaborate. As I parked at the cafe, I saw Diane waiting, looking emotional. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Whatever Mum tells you, I love you. I got scared and messed up. I'll understand if you can't forgive me." I took a deep breath and walked toward Diane. "Thank you for the continued support. I'm writing this from Mia's place, where I've been staying since meeting Diane. Her pull-out couch is a step up from Lucas's guest room, and her dog Daisy doesn't judge my late-night emotional cereal binges." The meeting with Diane was intense. The cafe was crowded with students, but Diane had secured a quiet corner booth. She looked worn, her usual polished appearance replaced by messy hair and no makeup. A stark contrast to the Diane I'd known for years. She hugged me tightly, and I ordered a plain coffee, avoiding anything indulgent. After small talk, Diane got to the point. Ethan had called her Sunday night, distraught. While his fears about commitment and his father were real, there was something else. Sarah, a new administrative assistant at his company. Diane, tearing up, explained that Ethan had developed feelings for Sarah over the past few months. He swore nothing physical happened, but an emotional connection had him questioning our relationship. I felt the room spin. Sarah, who Ethan had mentioned casually, who I'd met briefly at a company event in April, it all clicked. His distance, his phone obsession, his time with Jake. Diane explained she was telling me because she'd lived through a similar betrayal. Before Ethan's father left, he'd grown distant, picking fights to avoid admitting his affair. Diane didn't want me blindsided like she'd been. The pub comment now seemed like Ethan's subconscious attempt to push me away rather than face his feelings. We talked for over an hour. Diane shared how she'd tried to save her marriage, blaming herself for not being enough. Her final words hit hard. "You can't force someone to choose you. They either do or they don't." I sat in my car afterward, staring at Ethan's texts. More apologies, no mention of Sarah. I texted him, "I know about Sarah. Don't contact me until you're ready to be fully honest. I'll get my things tomorrow while you're at work." Then I blocked him for the night, needing clarity. I drove to Mia's, who welcomed me without question, setting up the couch and ordering pizza. Qley called, confirming Diane's story. She'd overheard Ethan and Jake discussing Sarah the previous week and had urged Ethan to tell me. He hadn't. Qley was firmly on my side, which meant more than I can say. I'd feared losing Ethan's family, who'd become my own. Mia's place was a sanctuary. We ate pizza on her floor, her study notes scattered around, and watched a reality show we barely paid attention to. It was the normalcy I needed. Later, as I scrolled through old photos, vacations, holidays, our engagement shoot, I got a text from an unknown number. "This is Sarah. I know you blocked Ethan. Can we meet tomorrow? There's more you should know." My heart raced. What else could there be? After hesitating, I replied, "Where and when? Thank you for the ongoing support. I'm still processing everything, surviving one day at a time." I met Sarah, and it was nothing like I expected. We met at a diner near a local park, a neutral spot. Sarah was already there, looking nervous, her hair in a loose ponytail, no makeup. She wasn't the confident other woman I'd imagined. She seemed anxious, fiddling with her mug. The conversation revealed two shocks. First, Sarah had no idea Ethan had feelings for her until Jake mentioned it recently. Their interactions were work-related, texts about projects, occasional shared jokes, nothing romantic. She showed me their messages, professional, with a few memes, nothing inappropriate. She even had a long-term boyfriend who sometimes joined their team outings. Second, Jake had been stirring the pot. Sarah overheard him telling Ethan to keep his options open and suggesting she understood Ethan better than I did. Jake had also spread rumors at work about Ethan's cold feet, framing marriage as a trap. Sarah was furious to be dragged into it. Her words stuck with me. "You deserve someone who knows your value. Don't let this make you doubt yourself." I left feeling oddly relieved. Sarah wasn't the problem. She was caught in Jake's meddling and Ethan's insecurities. I texted Qley to arrange a family meeting at her place, wanting neutral ground. She agreed immediately. Last night's dinner was tense. Qley hosted, ordering pizza and salad. Diane arrived first, then Jake, at Qley's insistence, and Ethan last, looking haggard. We ate in awkward silence until Diane addressed the situation directly. I shared what Sarah told me, watching Jake squirm. He claimed he was just joking, but Qley shut him down. Ethan admitted he'd misread Sarah's friendliness, projecting his fears about becoming his father. The pub comment, he said, was a cowardly attempt to seem cool under Jake's pressure, not about Sarah or my appearance. When I mentioned the wedding date, reality hit. Deposits paid, invitations sent, my dress waiting for fittings. It was all unraveling. I said I didn't think the wedding could happen. Ethan protested, but I explained that his dishonesty, doubts, and Jake's influence showed a deeper issue. I'd ignored his distance for months, making excuses. I deserved someone certain about me. Jake called me dramatic, but Diane and Qley snapped at him. Ethan insisted he loved me, but admitted his fears had sabotaged us. After hours of tears and hard truths, we agreed the wedding was off. Our relationship was over, not with anger, but with a quiet acknowledgement that trust was broken. Qley drove me to Mia's, assuring me I was still family to her and Diane. At Mia's, I sat in the dark, listing next steps. Cancel vendors, return the ring, notify guests, move out. Mia sat with me until dawn, offering silent support. Today, Ethan texted about practical matters, our lease, finances, furniture. Lucas offered to help move my things. My mum, hearing through family gossip, asked about her flight for the wedding. The ring feels like a weight now, a simple gold band with a small emerald, chosen for its understated elegance. The irony stings. I called the venue. Our deposit's gone, $7,500 lost. Qley found a caterer willing to transfer our deposit. Diane's helping notify family. Jake sent a half-hearted "things happen for a reason" text. I ignored it. Sarah apologized again, and I believe her. She's not the issue. The hardest part is the reminders, my wedding binder, our reception playlist, the honeymoon itinerary. I'm going to work tomorrow for distraction. Despite my red eyes and missing ring, Ethan and I meet tomorrow to sort out the apartment. He's moving to his cousin's, as my name's on the lease. It's also final. Diane's words linger. Endings are messy, sad, and complicated. But she rebuilt her life, and maybe I can too. It's been 3 months since the family dinner that ended my engagement, and I'm writing from my new apartment, a small one-bedroom with a tiny balcony where I'm failing at growing rosemary but succeeding with time. Thanks for asking for this update. Here's where things stand. Ethan moved out quickly, with Lucas and Mia helping pack his things. Sorting 5 years of shared belongings was surreal. His favourite mug, my bookshelf, our vacation photos. The apartment felt empty afterward, so I broke the lease, paying an extra month's rent to escape the memories. Finding a new place was tough on my budget, but I settled here, a bit far from work but mine. I'm learning to live alone, coupon clipping and budgeting like an adult. Most vendors were kind. The venue kept our deposit, but the photographer refunded half. The caterer suggested a therapy contact, which I appreciated. The ring, a simple emerald band, sits in its box in my drawer. Ethan said to keep or sell it. I haven't decided. Social media was rough. Changing my status brought a flood of messages. I posted about my new place, fresh start, and muted the noise. I've seen Ethan a few times for logistics, mail, shared accounts, returning his sister's blender. Our talks are polite but distant. He's still at his cousin's, still friends with Jake, though they've clashed, and Sarah switched teams at work after things got awkward. Last month, Ethan asked to meet. At a coffee shop, he looked worn, showing me a therapy journal. He's working on his issues, his father's betrayal, Jake's influence, how he hurt me. He didn't ask to reconcile, just shared his progress. I wished him well, not for us, but for him. Therapy's helping me too, unpacking how I ignored red flags for comfort. Diane and Qley remain in my life, texting memes and meeting for brunch. They respect my boundaries, avoiding Ethan talk. I've started hiking again, reclaiming old joys. Dating feels far off, despite co-workers' matchmaking hints. Mia suggested I take our planned honeymoon solo, a coastal cabin we'd booked, non-refundable. I'm going next week, alone, with books and a comfy swimsuit. My mum thinks I'm nuts. Lucas offered to join. I want to do this for me. The other day, our old song played in a store. It didn't break me, just a pang, like a fading bruise. My apartment's quirks, spotty Wi-Fi, stubborn time, and my mistakes, another dead rosemary, remind me I'm learning. I don't know what's next, but I'm starting to believe there's a future. Qley invited me for coffee, and Diane's friend offered a lake cabin if I need an escape. I might go, but for now, I'm leaning on Mia, Lucas, and my own resilience, one day at a time.